So you might have heard of me last year talking about the future of boxes. So this is not a rehearsal of that. It's actually like a follow-up of that, or maybe the future is now. Jakob was actually very kind to remind me that 13 years ago or so, when we did a GUADEC here in La Coruña, which was actually my first GUADEC, there was a tech preview of the first version of boxes. So kind of coincidentally, we are doing a tech preview of another version of boxes right now. And this is the work I've been doing for the past 2 years or so. And I'm going to talk very briefly about summarizing why I've done it and how I have done it. But then I want to get into demo time, because last time I think that one thing that I dropped the ball was actually not showing anything in action. I felt back then that maybe there was some foundational things I want to get together first before I got all the more eyes into the thing. So I feel that right now I think I'm kind of ready to get some user testing, some feedback, and other things. So that's why I am doing this follow-up talk. And yeah, so Boxes started like in 2012, right? So it was early GTK 3 type of days, and we were still very behind on the way we were developing apps in comparison to how we do things now. And it was built by a lot of people at Red Hat around the Spice technology, right? And this is very important for what the reason why I have to do this rework now. Because the Spice is this remoting technology that allows you to like remotely connect to another desktop, but also works for local VMs. So that's basically why Spice was chosen for Boxes. So not only drawing the display widget, but also Spice does the host-guest integration. Like the host is your system, and the guest is what is being virtualized. And Spice has also like the input, forwarding, file sharing, clipboard, all these kind of nice features. But yeah, Spice had its own team at Red Hat, and Zishan was like one of the main people behind that version of Boxes. Then Zishan like left Red Hat and started working on other things, and I was interested in like learning new things. I was still working at the time in settings, printing things, and document viewer. So I wanted to try new things, and Boxes was something I was very interested in because I was a user of that app. So that's when I got involved. It's been 6-7 years since that happened. Then we went through some dark ages because the Red Hat decided to move forward with RDP and not actually continue with Spice, business-related things, but the Spice team has been disbanded. Everybody's okay, working on other things. They were not fired, but the Spice project kind of got deprecated, and Spice was written in GTK 3, and there it does a lot of input and a lot of like deep, low-level things, so that was a really hard thing to port, especially not having an active upstream. The folks that were very knowledgeable about this, they were busy working on other things, so the project sort of stagnated. We also had conflicting opinions about how to design an app architecture, so I think the Boxes kind of became a bit of a code rot, because we had like very different features implemented in very different ways. Like there was a lot of abstraction in some perspective, other composition in other, procedural generation of widgets versus like declarative. So I am guilty of contributing to that code rot, and I saw that we were getting in a place where new contributors were not really interested in diving into that code base. It was just really hard to digest. So then, Mark Andrea, which was actually a person who was involved in Spice, developed the QEMU debuzz display, which allows us to basically access the display of the virtual machine over debuzz, like having APIs for that. And then Christian Hager developed libmks, which MKS standing for mouse, keyboard, and screen. So that was a new hope because it allowed us to use a GTK4 widget for drawing the screen of the virtual machine. And that basically gave me an opportunity to start from the scratch. Since Boxes was very tied to Spice, I felt like replacing the engine of the car, it's really hard. Maybe you'd rather build a new car around the engine, a new engine. So also because libadwaita GTK4 was coming, and I wanted to be part of this new hype of app developers, engage new contributors, and for that I needed to have a code that it's approachable by everybody, sustainable. So that's why I decided to do this rewrite. And since Spice was removed from RHEL, I became maintainer of GNOME Settings, and Boxes became kind of my side project, something I was doing more on my free time. And Red Hat has been very kind to allow me to do this on my working hours, but it's like not as priority as the other settings work. So things start to move there pretty slowly. And I actually found some new passion for developing apps because nowadays it's much better tooling than when I started. The toolkits are much nicer. So that's how I decided to keep trying on this front rather than give up on boxes. So last GUADEC, I had a talk about this whole journey about developing the thing. In Linux App Summit in Albania, I kind of described a bit of my architecture decisions about how to do things. Long story short, I have like a libvm that is like a static library that is inside Boxes that does all the virtualization, libvirt things, and then I have like UI in a very separate namespace, so it's just very well divided, and we can test the backend code separately, and then the UI it's just like living separately, which was a big mistake of the previous Boxes implementation, that they were very entangled. But anyway, like you can check those talks. I'm going to be linking to them later, but I wanted to actually make this a demo presentation, and that's when things usually go wrong, right? So bear with me. So this is how the new Boxes thing is looking like. You can see prominently that we have some custom icons. Jakob has been working on them. This is very recent work. So he's doing his pixel art work on those icons. And yeah, it kind of resembles the old Boxes. But I wanted to show you that things are working, and nothing better than just like showing them working. So let's start with our favorite OS, GNOME OS. So as always, like by design, our creating a box dialog needs to be stupid simple. It needs to be for people who do not know anything about operating system internals, virtual machine internals. This is like, I just want to get another operating system running, and these are the very basic things. Firmware choices there is something that I'm very close to getting rid of that UI element, because we are flagging in the libOS info all the operating systems that we know to support certain firmware, the ones who require and the ones who support. So we can, for instance, for GNOME OS, hide that entirely, because we know the GNOME OS is UEFI only, and we probably want all of the OSs to be UEFI only. That's why we are calling the BIOS as a legacy BIOS. But anyway, let's go ahead and create. So here you see the libmks display. And let's boot. So Boxes is booting on the ISO. GNOME OS is extremely fast to install, so I think we're going to be able to be doing even a quick installation in here. So let's go GNOME OS. So old GNOME OS ISO that I had around, but still works the same. So what I am actually going to show with this step is that differently than other virtual machine managers, Boxes kind of tries to abstract away the whole idea of a virtual machine manager having to expose how operating systems work. So here what we did is that we installed the operating system and create a virtual disk. So Boxes knows that this virtual disk has files on it now. So it detects by checking the file size and comparing, and then it already goes and switches the boot order from booting from the installer into the install disk. So that basically means that now if I click here on GNOME OS GUADEC and everything worked correctly, I should already be booting on the right disk, right? So this basically allows me to perform my installation in the way you kind of be performing in real hardware, right? This is the moment you would unplug the USB flash disk, or that you would be removing the CD-ROM. We are still using Spice for certain things, especially the things that don't involve drawing and anything. So for instance, specifically because I want to leverage the idea that most distros are already shipping the Spice agent. So the Spice agent is a process that runs inside the operating system that provides that connection with the host. So for instance, here I can copy some text and paste it on my host, and that would work the other way around as well. So I can already copy and paste it on the virtual machine. So that it's still working, even though we changed the display widget, it's still working through Spice. So another place where a lot of work has been happening is the properties dialog. The properties dialog is specifically the place where I feel that most users shouldn't have to go, because you're just playing with your virtual machine, you're sending files and stuff, but there are advanced requirements for users, and I want to cover those, specifically because I am supporting image-based operating systems, and Boxes is the only virtual machine manager that actually runs entirely in a Flatpak container. Like it runs with its own libvirt and QEMU inside there, so you don't need anything on the host. Other virtual machine manager applications usually are going to connect to a host libvirt session, so that's not necessarily like self-contained. So when you want to support more advanced things, you might have to end up on the properties dialog. So for instance, here we have the resources. Jakub and I have made this very nice sliding resizing widget that allows you to change the size of your virtual machine disk. I have here like an early draft of network settings. I'm doing port forwarding. I use this Google alert, which basically notifies me about what people are writing about Boxes on the internet. And one of the main the top research that people have about Boxes is supporting Windows 11. And the other one is how I can connect to my box over the internet, right? My boxes were often isolated on the network. So now we support port forwarding in the Flatpak, so that's working. And yeah, the other things we already supported, which is a removable device. Snapshots are also already implemented. I did a new log view, and then the old school libvirt fancy configurations and stuff. So for instance, let's boot this Fedora OS and try to see the networking things, if they work. Because I think that this is like something people have been wanting for a long time. So yeah, sometimes I feel that Fedora has SELinux, and SELinux often blocks SSH connections. But we have, for every virtual machine that we are creating, a vSoc virtual device being created for this. So for instance, I can just enter my credentials here for SSH. And I got this terminal window behind. Seems like I'm getting my password wrong. Maybe caps lock. Oh yeah, caps lock, it's on. Right, so now I got in. So I can, for instance, do a notify send. And so I can already SSH into my machine. Other cool feature that's one still provided by Spice is the file sharing. It's still there, so like I can, for instance, pick a small file here and just send, and it's already there in the downloads folder, so I just send a file into my virtual machine. But anyways, back to the most researched topic in Google Alerts, which is installing Windows. As you know, Microsoft has fucked it up with Windows 11, that they are requiring that you throw your laptop away and get a laptop with a TPM device. So a lot of users of Boxes were frustrated that they could no longer virtualize Windows. And I saw this as an opportunity because if people are to migrate to Linux, they might still depend on some Windows workloads. So having a Windows 11 VM is something worth doing. So here I downloaded an image from Windows 11 from the Microsoft website. They make it publicly available, and I'm going to go through the installer. What you saw in the past when you're trying to install Windows 11 in Boxes is that you just fail because you don't have the TPM device, you don't have security keys, secure boot, and all those things set up. So that's something I spent a lot of time trying to crack, and now I managed to do so. So if everything goes correct, you're going to see that the Windows installer goes through the part where it checks for hardware capabilities. So now you're finally able to do a Windows 11 installation. The installer is still not running with the virtual driver, so that's why you might not see such a nice drawing on the widget. Yeah, I don't have a product key, but you can still continue forward with the installation if you don't have one. Let's install this one. So you see the checking PC thing flashed pretty fast, and it already went through. So if you got to this stage of the license, it means that your hardware is capable of booting Windows 11. So basically now Windows 11, you could continue here and install Windows 11. But this is going to be very slow, so I already have one that is installed. We have a virtual Win driver for Windows, so you're going to have like some, if everything works, you're going to have like a nice resolution for Windows, and also Spice Agent for Windows. This Boxes version can mount the Spice Agent file as a removable device for Windows. So once you are booting for the first time, you're going to be able to install the Spice Agent on Windows. You're going to have a notification on the top telling you that the guest agent is not connected, that you should install it if you want more advanced features. Oops. So Windows. So that's how Windows 11 looks like. And same thing. And same thing as before, I can send a file and it's going to show up here on my Windows desktop. I also can share clipboard between my host and the Windows guest. So here I could paste what is already on my clipboard, the hello string. So that also kind of working entirely out of the box. Yeah, I think that's basically what I got so far. I also put together a mini website at nightly.gnomeboxes.org. GNOMEboxes.org is still pointing to stable, but nightly.gnomeboxes has instructions about how you can test this. This is on the GNOME Nightly Apps Flatpak repository. So I would like to actually get people testing and filing issues. In this website, there's instructions about how to file issues. There's also a list of the features that are already supported. And yeah, I would like to stabilize this because I see that we are releasing GNOME 51 in September, I think. So I think we have time for me to get this to replace the old boxes. I also have migration script for old Boxes virtual machines. This new version of Boxes can create VMs from VM disks. So basically, you can just open a file, and that file can be your old Boxes virtual machine. So you can have new virtual machines living on that one file. So this is also a way that you can share your virtual machines. You can, for instance, get the disk of a virtual machine and export. That's actually something I didn't show. But I could, for instance, get this GNOME OS VM exported to a different location, and that basically would create a GNOME OS kickoff file that you can share with your friend, and they are going to be able to boot the same virtual machine that you shared. So it's basically a way to send your virtual machines around or make backups of your virtual machine, and also a way to migrate from the old virtual machines, the old boxes to the new boxes. So yeah, please visit this website and help me with the testing, file issues, and I hope I'm going to be able to cover all the features that we used to support. I am starting working on the USB redirection now. The new USB devices portal is helping a lot. I have some patches in QEMU that is going to be able to hand over a file descriptor of the device to QEMU, so then we're going to be able to actually offer it as like a real physical device to the operating system, rather than plumbing through SPICE, because the SPICE still would require the agent and libUSB and a bunch of privileged things to happen. What I don't have is the bridge network. I think for that maybe we want to build a network portal type of thing, so you still, oops. You still don't have a way to have a public IP address to access your VM. So this is just port forwarding. But yeah, I think it's enough for you to SSH with VSOC and also SSH for port forwarding or access HTTP and things like this. So I think it's already pretty functional. You just don't get one VM to access another VM because of the lack of the bridge. But that's a problem that we are probably going to be solving next. So yeah, these are basically the things. We used to have this OS store in Boxes where you could download a bunch of operating systems. This is something I want to consolidate on the designs with the design team, but I already have an implementation that looks more like Bazaar GNOME software type of thing. So you basically could browse Ubuntu and then choose a version of Ubuntu and types of architectures, and then you download, and then you would create a VM from Boxes. Yeah, and automated tests is I want to do some more testing, since I basically built this architecture where the backend is separated, so it's much easier to test. I already have a test for the creating VM, resizing the VM, but there's other contexts that I want to. I'm running out of time, so I want to show acknowledgments of everybody who has been involved, people who have worked on the previous version of Boxes that was a great inspiration for this new build, and also people who have been working on this new version. Jakub Steiner has done the icons, a lot of the mock-ups, so I'm very thankful for them. And Christian Hager worked on libmks, Jordan helped me with the CI, so it's a lot of people, and it takes a village to build something like this, so I'm very thankful that this is available, and please go out and test. You can contact me on this address. This second one is my Mastodon account. And yeah, that's all I have. I think we are good on time.